This is a great pick. It's called The Invisible Boy by Trudy Ludwig. I read this story for the first time a couple years ago, and the illustrations are what drew me to this book because, as you notice, the boy is black and white, and it's all sketch drawings, so it's really beautiful. It's illustrated by Patrice Barton. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Miss Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom. She's too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophie. Nathan and Sophie look to be in trouble, don't they? Do you see the little boy, Brian? Nathan has problems with what Miss Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice inside too much. Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophie take up a lot of space. Brian doesn't. When the bell rings for recess, Micah and JT take turns choosing kids for their kickball teams. The best players always get picked first, then the best friends of the best players, and then the friends of the best friends, and only Brian is left, still waiting and hoping. JT glances in Brian's direction and, just as quickly, looks away. We've got enough players for each team, he tells the others. Let's play ball. Did Brian get to play? In the cafeteria, Madison and her friends talk about her birthday party. The rope swing over the pool was just awesome, says JT. Yeah, so was the water slide, adds Fiona. That was the best pool party ever. I'm so glad you guys had fun, says Madison. Everybody did, except Brian. He wasn't invited. That's a good reason not to talk about birthdays. You can invite everybody to birthdays, but you don't need to talk about it and hurt people's feelings. At choosing time, while the other kids play board games and read, Brian sits at his table, doing what he loves to do best. He draws fire-breathing dragons scaling tall buildings, space aliens locked in intergalactic battles, greedy pirates digging for treasure, and superheroes with the power to make friends wherever they go. On Monday morning, Mrs. Carlotti introduces Justin, a new student, to the class. Brian smiles shyly at him. Some of the other kids sneak looks at Justin, trying to figure out if he's cool enough to be their friend. They haven't quite made up their minds yet. At lunch, Madison and JT watch Justin eat with chopstick. What's that? asks Madison as she points at Justin's food. It's bulgogi. What? And the kids laugh, all of them. That is except Brian. He sits there wondering which is worse, being laughed at or feeling invisible. Bulgogi. It's Korean barbecued beef. My grandma made it for me. It's really good. Do you want to try some? There is no way I'd eat bulgogi. They're making fun of what he eats. That's terrible. And bulgogi is really good. The next day, when Justin goes to his cubby to put away his backpack, he notices a piece of paper with his name on it. Justin, I thought bulgogi looked good. Brian, yum. He's even eaten with chopsticks. At morning recess, Brian finds a piece of chalk on the ground and starts drawing away. You're Brian, right? Yeah. Thanks for the note. Hey, Justin, Emilio calls out from the tetherball court. You're up next. Sorry, gotta go, says Justin. By the way, that's a really cool drawing, he adds before taking off. Do you notice the picture of Brian? Back in class, Miss Carlotti asks the kids to team up in twos or threes for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads towards Justin. I'm already with Justin, says Emilio. Find someone else. Brian looks at the floor, wishing he could draw a hole right there to swallow him up. Miss Carlotti said we can have up to 3 people in our group. We're only 2. Come on, Emilio. Let him work with us. Okay, I guess. Look at the picture of how he goes from the invisible to, he's kind of got a green shirt. Miss Carlotti gives the class directions for the project. Your assignment is to work together to write a story about what you see in this photograph. Use your imagination and have fun. Oh, cool, says Amelia. What kind of people do you think would live in houses like that? I don't know, but I bet Brian could draw them to go with our story, said Justin. Brian smiles as he takes out his lucky pen. What's Brian really good at? Drawing. Look at the three boys working together and creating. Look at Brian's color. He's just blooming, isn't he? The crooked story we made up on the spot. And he drew a treehouse and a dinosaur and a shark. Look at their hats. It's lunchtime again, Brian's least favorite part of the day. Another 20 long minutes of kids talking and laughing with everyone else but him. Brian, he hears someone shout, "Hey Brian, over here." Brian turns and sees Justin waving over him. Emilio nods at Brian as he makes room for him at the table. Cookie? Maybe, just maybe, Brian's not so invisible after all. Thanks. The end. So how did Brian become uninvisible? He had one kid reach out to him and ask him to play. That's all it takes. One kid. I hope you're that kid.